This is 8 Minutes of Awesome. I'm Jennifer Lipsky. In early 1993, in the village of Scole in the UK, four psychic researchers embarked on a series of experiments, and what they encountered was astounding. One of those researchers was Robin Foy, who, along with his wife Sandra, have been investigating physical mediumship and physical phenomena for over 40 years. And speaking with me right now is Robin Foy. Robin, thank you so much for joining me here on 8 Minutes of Awesome.
You're very welcome.
Robin, I would like for you to start with just giving us a simple definition of what exactly physical mediumship is.
Right, okay. Well, when people talk about mediums, generally speaking, they're talking about a medium who will give them a reading in a lighted room. And generally speaking, the medium will be able to see clairvoyance, to hear the spirits, which is clairaudience, or to sense the spirits, which is known as clairsentience. All of these three gifts are such that only the medium is able to perceive what's happening in the spirit world and the spirit people that are talking to them or being seen by them. That's mental mediumship. A much more rarer form of mediumship is physical mediumship. And physical mediumship basically means that everybody in the room is able to perceive what's going on as it happens. There are many, many different types of physical phenomena, including spirit lights, including apportation of objects. In other words, a little present from spirit which just sort of comes from nowhere. That also includes sort of psychic photography, of which we've done a fair amount, particularly during the Scole Experiment, and also such things as materialization, where a spirit personality is actually completely present in the room. People can see when there is lighting of any sort, and people can interact with that spirit personality. Then again, you can split the two different or you can split physical mediumship into two different forms. The first form, and the most traditional form, is ectoplasm-based, and that is the form generally where a medium will go into a deep trance, where the medium's body will be used to store ectoplasm, which then comes out of all the medium's natural orifices to produce the materialization. That is a different way of working from the way that we were working at Scole, which was a much more pioneering aspect. We worked in conjunction and in liaison with a spirit team who brought about a brand new way of working that was energy-based. That's the other form of physical phenomena, physical mediumship. Nobody during that is necessarily in a deep trance, although during our Scole Experiment, we had two mediums that were in a deep trance, but they didn't produce the phenomena alone, and they didn't sit in a cabinet. Purely and simply, they were there because our spirit team were able to speak through them when they were in a deep trance and give us all sorts of instructions, all sorts of advice to do with the work and the different experiments that we were undertaking. So that is what physical mediumship is. It's very rare today. There are very few physical mediums in the world, and even today, after I've personally had a hand in resurrecting and bringing physical mediumship back, which was due to something I did in 1990, in actually founding an organization called the Noah's Ark Society, which brought physical mediumship back into the public interest and helped develop a number of physical mediums, many of whom now are in a position to demonstrate to the public.
That is fascinating work. And some of our viewers may be interested to know when you speak of the spirit team, and I'm curious as well, was it the same spirits that would be present, or would it be different? How would it go?
Well, generally speaking, I mean, we were told that the spirit team that was working with us was actually several hundred strong. However, there were just a few spokespersons who became our sort of confidants, the people that we spoke to on a regular basis. They were lovely, lovely people. And when the Scole Experiment finished, it was devastating because it was very much like losing our own family all in one go. But nevertheless, we had probably about 6 or 7 regular communicators that we were able to speak to. And as the phenomena developed at Scole, we were able to do this in a way which was known as independent. So in other words, the voices would come out of mid-air, totally independent of the mediums, so that we could carry on a conversation with spirit people who were speaking to us from mid-air. Or another way that we were able to develop was that we were actually able to speak to spirit people through the amplifier of a cheap cassette tape recorder. The spirit people used the silicon chip within that tape recorder as a point of entry, and so their voices came out loud and clear through that tape recorder, and we were able to carry on a two-way conversation. And right towards the end of the Scole experiment, we received a blueprint from Thomas Edison in the spirit world himself, showing us a little device to build that would enable us to speak not just to spirit, but also to other dimensions. So that's sort of going into the realms of UFOs, etc., which actually happened, and we were able to carry on conversations eventually, not just with the spirit world, but also with people from other dimensions, which might sound a bit bizarre, but it was absolutely amazing.
That really is amazing. And so when the Scole experiment ended, it sounds like your work still continued and continues today. So tell me a bit about what you're doing now.
Well, we don't actually have the phenomena that we had at Scole, but my wife and I do sit together from time to time, and both of us now have developed the ability to channel. So we're able to channel spirit personalities, sometimes spirit personalities that were part and parcel of the team at Scole, but we don't have the phenomena at the moment that we had. We are hoping to develop it once again, though.
Mm. And I'm curious with the Scole experiment. So you're saying the phenomena doesn't exist now, but was it pertaining to, do you think, being in Scole in particular, or was it because of your team that you had together? What was the combination, do you think,
Well,
that made that so profound?
yeah, I feel it was something that was predestined, and the fact that it only really started in this way. I mean, we both witnessed much physical mediumship, physical phenomena in the past, mainly in the past with ectoplasm. Although we do know of other groups that were working with energy, but their teams weren't able to sustain it. And I think Skull was the first occasion that a spirit team was able to sustain the phenomena that they were actually producing at that time. And of course, the experiment went on for 5 years. But the place of Skull was very important because it did actually lie on the main ley line that passed through the UK, which was known as the Michael and Mary ley line, coming from St Michael's Mount in Cornwall, and it went right through the country from southwest where St Michael's Mount is, right through to sort of East Anglia, passing right through Scole. And that's important because where there's a ley line, generally speaking, there's a lot of energy, spiritual energy. Not only that, but Scole had in the past been a village that was occupied by the Romans in the very early days, and the Romans gave it the name of Villa Faustini, which in itself would actually suggest that there had perhaps been there had been psychic phenomena occur there in the past, because the idea of Faust brings forward the sort of the psychic type of idea. So we do think that perhaps it had been a place where in the past things had happened, and it needed us to go to a particular property so that this would actually occur. And it was quite amazing. When we moved into Street Farmhouse in Scole, everything really went bananas. Everything really started to happen. The right team came together. In other words, we found the right sitters for the group, and it all started to happen. And as soon as we got our first phenomena, it just went from strength to strength. There were so many different strands of different things that occurred in the phenomena. And there is what is known as the broken stick idea, and the bundle of sticks, so that if there's one thing happening, sometimes it's easy to sort of break that and say, look, that can't be, so forth and so on. But if you have 10 or 12 different things happening on a regular basis, and you call that a bundle of sticks, it's very hard to sort of break that and sort of say it didn't happen. So there were a lot of skeptics, but we were supported very much by scientists who sat with us from time to time, and we were able to demonstrate to the public in different places, in Scole particularly, but also in the USA. We did a tour there. Also in Europe, we went to Ibiza, Spain, we went to Germany, we went to Switzerland, we went to Dublin, and we also gave a sitting in Holland. So there was a tremendous amount of ability that we had to be able to show this to the public. And in that 5 years, there's several hundred people had the experience of sitting with us and seeing, hearing, and feeling some wonderful things happen.
Mm. So it sounds like school was a powerful place, but also it was powerful work of all of you coming together.
Well, very much so. We
Yeah.
were told that the thing had been predestined before we were born, and that we had come back to agree to do this, the whole team, and that we'd been together before anyway. But we were told that this had been actually brought about by the spirit world before the last World War. So we had obviously agreed to come back and do something in this direction then.
Mm. A remarkable story, Robin, and I'm so glad that you shared it with us. And for anyone who would like to contact Robin or Sandra directly to learn more about the Scole Experiment and about their ongoing work, you can reach them at their website, which is physicalmediumshipforyou.ning.com. And Robin Foy, thank you so much for joining me here on 8 Minutes of Awesome.
You're very welcome. Thanks.